Welcome to Thinking and Drinking. I'm your host AJ Kunze, and today we're going to be talking about, this isn't Thinking and Drinking. My name isn't AJ Kunze. Comics.
For the start of the second story arc, the Tithe really kicks things up a notch. BAM! Up until this point, the Tithe has really been a book about large-scale robberies framed around enacting social justice on big corporate churches that are involved in some form of sinful skullduggery. This arc takes the conflict to an entirely different level, moving away from robbery and tackling the idea of full-scale, high-level terrorism. This book really isn't shy about attacking big topics, including violence's role in the Nation of Islam, the presence of God and to what extent does he actually manipulate our lives, and how politicians use religion and tragedy to sort of manipulate us as a nation and as a people. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, man, this book could potentially be super offensive to, like, all of us. And yeah, I guess there's potential there. But in the back of the issue, writer Matt Hawkins has a really well-written essay where he sort of addresses this topic. It kind of goes into what he thinks of Islam. He has some experience working in the Middle East and is actually very familiar with kind of the more inner workings of that religion. But beyond that, the essay talks about how creators can't be afraid of big controversial topics. When you avoid talking about a topic or making jokes about it or just sort of bringing it up in general, what you do is you create an echo chamber within that idea. And ignorance is allowed to fester. People don't hear about it. The greater public isn't made aware of it. The community itself isn't allowed to dissect and pull apart its own ideas. And ultimately, no favors are done and no new thoughts are grown. And we all did it because we were afraid. We were just afraid to be challenged or offended. And that's really sad. So I really appreciate how this book sort of fearlessly trudges forward into some topics that could potentially get it in trouble. Also in the essay, Matt Hawkins talks about how he wants people to think when they read his work. He wants his comic books to spark discussion and thought. That's great, but work is supposed to spark thought and spark conversation. Work is not supposed to be that conversation. And as strong as the Tithe is, and this is a very strong and very impressive title, it does have a bit of a flaw, and that is the more conversational moments of the book are kind of weak and preachy. It sort of feels like Matt Hawkins has taken his extra hammy fist and just kind of jamming it in your mouth so you can try to get it up into that brain, rather than letting the work, you know, spark the thought and conversation for itself. The Tithe has had its ups and downs, and it's far from a perfect book, but it's a very brave and important book, and I highly encourage all of you to check it out. Exit Generation needs to make up its goddamn mind. This book's ideas and focus sort of lash out as violently and as wildly as an over-caffeinated squid. But when the book starts out, it seems to be a book that's about sort of dissecting the effects that overpopulation and civilization have in general on human behavior and sort of groupthink morality. Then very suddenly it turns into like a CW style young adult fiction character piece. And then when it gets bored with that, all of a sudden it wants to be a goofy sci-fi comedy where these monsters from space that are basically the Toad monster from Power Rangers come down and like kidnap people so they can make like soup out of them and stuff. And then as the book is closing, it changes its mind again and decides it wants to be a space epic. And this book is in desperate need of some frickin' Ritalin. This book is completely undisciplined, but it's actually enjoyable moment to moment. It's very well written. The characters are relatable and likable. And what is that like a, is that a rogue lettering asset? I've read thousands of comic books and I've never seen misplaced text before. All right, moving on. Next Generation has no shortage of ideas, and it's well written and competently drawn, so it could end up becoming a really great book, but it needs to frickin' focus on what it's trying to actually tell its readers. AJ, tell us everything about Deadpool vs Thanos. We're super excited because we are everyone and we love Deadpool. All right, readers and viewers, you want to know everything about Deadpool vs Thanos? Go ahead and read the title. There, you know everything about Deadpool vs Thanos. I have a hard time talking about this book because it's not bad. Everything, it's pretty funny. It moves at a pretty good clip. And what is there is entertaining, but it never delivers anything past its title. These are the most general and broad versions of both these characters. There is no feeling of voice from the creative team. There is not a lot of original or novel concepts or settings. It's just Deadpool versus Thanos. It's exactly what you would expect. Deadpool cuts a dude with his sword, makes a reference to Mexican food, coyly brings up his libido, and look, we got ourselves a pop culture reference, and then the book's over. I'm not gonna come out and say this is a bad book. I'm not gonna come out and tell you not to read this book. I'm saying this is the least exciting version of this project that you could possibly imagine. And I've read Deadpool stuff that I love, stuff written by Colin Bunn, stuff written by Rick Remender, where you can feel the creator's voice, you can feel creativity, you feel like the person writing this is having fun and telling a story that no one else could tell, and none of that is here, and that's the trap of Deadpool. He's goofy, he's funny, he makes us laugh, but so what? There's nothing here to make me stick to the story, to make me want to enjoy this world. It kind of comes and goes and it's over. It has the flavor profile of a potato chip. And yeah, potato chips are good, but before you know it, you're done with the bag and you're moving on to something else. It's finally here! The issue of the empty zone, where we finally understand what the fuck has been going on this whole time. Issue number 4 of The Empty Zone finally sort of explains the mythos, explains why all these crazy, goofy, and horrific things have been happening to this character, the breaks in reality, antagonistic view the world seems to have towards the main character. It all finally makes sense. We have grounding, we have context. But don't worry, we still got Squid Santa, Parkour in Human Creation Station, and Blacklight Dr. Manhattan. I was worried that when this story finally sort of like revealed what it was hiding, that it would kind of lose a lot of its mystique. Horror and mystery are so much less exciting when you can put a face on the monster, or you can explain why the world is terrifying. It sort of defangs everything. But the way The Empty Zone lets its story blossom, it makes all the conspiracies interesting and deep enough that you want to keep pushing forward. That for every answer you get 10 more questions. This book is still exciting, deep, mysterious, and home to the best horror in all of comic books. The one missing ingredient up to this point had been narrative momentum, and we finally have it. This book went from enjoyable to great, and it's definitely something that people need to be adding to their pull lists. I've spoken on this show before about how much I like We Are Robin, and to be honest, for as much praise as I've levied against it, I haven't really liked the book that much. I've more liked the potential of this book. The idea that an entire generation of youth, the first generation of youth to ever grow up where superheroes are the norm, would find a cause and purpose in a hero, it just makes so much sense to me. That's how our real world would react to it. Sort of activism in youth culture has been a thing in America since the 60s. So it just sort of makes sense that in a world where spandex heroes are running around, you know, dispensing truth, justice, and the American way, that people would morph their activism to fit that. Up until now, this book has sort of danced around those heavier topics, always kind of afraid to really go into them. Fucking grab your glasses, people, because it's time to celebrate. Issue 4 of We Are Robin is where the book finally unleashes its potential. And with the release of this potential, this series has created one of the best single issues to be released this year. Issue 4 sees the team of Robin sort of unpacking themselves and their cause after the tragedy of having one of their own killed in action. It focuses specifically on one Robin, Rico. The cliche path to grieving in this story would be the character sort of questioning if they should keep going, if they should keep being heroes. Rico never contemplates quitting. She sort of just tries to place being Robin into her life. Listen, puberty, growing up, adolescent, that transitional period of your life is nothing more than someone's adult brain turning on, and the angst and anger and the acting out that sort of comes with that time in your life, sort of trying to make sense of all this new stimuli and the fact that everything goes from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. And this book brilliantly brings that forth. This book is about Rico growing up, about having her adult brain finally turned on by this awful tragedy. She's not questioning whether or not she should be Robin, she's trying to fit being Robin into a new adult life. She's looking for purpose, and she's realizing that finding purpose isn't about adding new activities or doing something new with your life. It's about finding the meaning behind the stuff that you were already doing. This book is brilliantly constructed. The book gets a shakeup in its art, sort of adopting this pop art style reminiscent of like Roy Lichtenstein or Andy Warhol. Early in the issue, it uses a lot of bright, sort of surreal colors, introduces a lot of like childish pop art posters, Batman stockings, logos, bands, the trappings of a very pop-obsessed adolescent life. As the book continues, the colors mute, these symbols sort of dissipate, expressions become less exaggerated and more grounded, the world becomes less through the view of a child and more through the view of an adult. All the flaws this series had up until this point fade away. It's obsessively constructed, brilliantly insightful, and it's everything I wanted this series to be. Seriously, if you have not been reading this series up to this point, go ahead and pick it up because it's turning into something really special. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me for the episode of The Pull. I hope you enjoyed my take on all these comic books, but really, I want to hear what you guys thought of these books. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? What did I miss? Leave your thoughts in the comments below or head over to our website, videogametimemachine.com, and comment on the various articles, videos, and stuff that can be found there. Or if you want, you could become a contributor for the website, write your own articles, create your own content, and have them publicized and advertised with the same vigor that we advertise our own stuff. If you're interested in becoming part of the Video Game Time Machine team, go ahead and tweet me or the channel, message us on Facebook, or contact us by email. Regardless on whether you want to be a contributor or just a viewer, make sure you hit that subscribe button. For every new subscriber we get this week, I will take one lesson of ventriloquism. That way I can have a saucy sock puppet sidekick. What's up, Mitzi? Comic books, yay! You can see my mouth moving. I'm really bad, I need those lessons. Make sure you come back next Sunday and every Sunday, then time for the episode of The Pull. Now get out of here and go read comics.